Chinese Premier Xi Jinping and Russian President Putin, some foreign policy experts have said that this can be a threat for India in terms of Indo-Russian relations. What is your take on that? Do you agree with the thought or the statement?
I think that's too early to predict that there will be somewhat of a loss in the India-Russian relations. See, we have to accept one thing, and Jay Shankar spoke elaborately about it in a podcast he did with Smita Prakash, I think, where he said that the Chinese have a certain economic size, they have a certain leverage, and we have to accept that. And there will be countries, not just Russia. We deal with the Americans also. And just yesterday, Shreya, there was a summit going on in China, and you had all the who's and who's of American corporate world prostrating before the CCP, starting with Tim Cook. Now, we are very happy to welcome Apple to India, but Apple is also very happy to do its business in China. So, China, with its by virtue of its economic size, is going to attract 99.9% of those countries and organizations and corporations who we will be indulging. So, this is one thing. So, our relationship with all those communities will be independent of how they deal with China. And let's not forget, we are a market of 1.3 billion people, the youngest market. China is aging faster, and that's one of their problems now. Their consumption is slowing down. Even though they have a target of 5% growth this year, they are not looking to achieve it. Even the early weeks of FY24 are approaching. It's not going to happen. So we are also the youngest market on this planet. Will the American MNCs wanting to ditch us? We are going big on our defense. Would the Russians want to ditch us? Our consumption of oil will also go up. Will the Middle East want to ditch us? I'm looking at it in a very simple perspective. I don't want to over intellectualize this aspect of geopolitics because the world is changing. One thing I totally believe is that we are not in a world where there are two power centers. Eventually, Europe will have to find its feet independent of the NATO, and they will have to emerge as a power center in terms of economics, in terms of what they can do for the other parts of the world, how they can engage with, say, Africa, for instance. What is China? Another power center. What is Russia? Perhaps a declining, but yet a power center. America, a problematic society, but still a power center. What is India? Another power center. So we have to start looking at a world, a multipolar world, as again, Dr. Jay Shankar has actually put 2, 3 years ago in his book. So in that, there will be bilateral arrangements between countries, and those same countries would be dealing with other countries who we not may not share the best relationship with. But that's what the new world is all about. It's not like either you're against us or for us. It's like everyone is catering to their own specific interest. The Europeans are engaging with the Chinese at so many levels, so many strategic investments. I'll give you another example. But does it stop from certain countries in Europe from banning a TikTok or a Huawei? No, it doesn't. Americans and Chinese, they keep talking about decoupling. But can it happen? It doesn't happen. They talk about Taiwan, Nancy Pelosi makes a heroic trip, and things like that. Does it happen? It doesn't happen. The Quad, another aspect. Will Japan stop trading with the Chinese? No. So I don't think we should really just call it a day for the Indo-Russian relations. They are a strategic defense partner. And when we were engaging with America, we did not let go of the Russians. So no reason to believe that now that the Russians are engaging with the Chinese, they let go of us. And anyway, look at the political positions of both Russia and China. We can't predict their future 5 years from now. But we can do that more safely for, say, an India or an America. But can we do the same for a Russia or a China? Not really.
So what you're saying is that even in terms of bilateral relations, the world in general is getting more liberal in its approach.
It's getting more independent in its thought process. It's getting Latin America for the longest period of time was engaging with North America. But now they have a lot of Chinese investments there. Africa was dependent on the US and Europe for the longest period of time. Now they see investments from the Chinese. India, until the Cold War ended, was more of a Russian partner than an American partner. Look how things have changed. I wouldn't call it a liberal world. I would call it a more priority driven world, for the lack
Or,
of a better
yeah,
phrase. I would
or economics driven world, maybe?
economics driven. Everyone is looking at their economic interests, which happened when we were importing Russian oil. The foreign minister and the finance minister were very clear about it. You want my country to go through a 10% inflation because of oil? I'm sorry, I can't let that happen. I've budgeted my entire accounts on a certain oil amount, on a certain oil price, and I want it to happen. And they were very upfront about it, which was amazing to see. Which was amazing to see. There was nothing apologetic about it. So yeah, you're right. Economic interest-driven society, and that's all right. As soon as everyone is making money, as long as everyone is making enough money for themselves, I think the global order will take care of itself. Plus, I'm not one of those who likes to really have those prophecies that 10 years later this will happen, 20 years later this will happen. As we've seen in the last 20 years, the politics is intertwining with the economics of the day. So I think all the countries are just making up things as they go along. It's all improvisation. You really don't know. One pandemic and the world changed. So how can we be sure what will happen 5 years later? One regime change in Russia or China or Republicans getting back the White House in 24, again the world order changes. Say Narendra Modi goes out of office in 24, again we're looking at a very different Indian foreign policy. So I think it's something we need to take 6 months at a time. And for the next 6 months, I think Indians will look to cater to their economic interests and see where things go from there.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.